Hey guys, my name is Moon and welcome back for more Higurashi When They Cry, Chapter 2, Watanagashi. So last time, Keiichi had another phone call from Shion, and then he said Shion if or when and where did she talk to the mayor, right? She didn't answer, and then they showed us this creepy face, and she was laughing and the call ended, right? It was very scary last time. The music was fantastic as well. So yeah, let's just continue it. Continue.
Keiichi,
Mom, you're back.
Keiichi.
放っておいてやれ。
Was it catatonic?
友達が行方不明になったんだ。気の毒にな。
Normally my dad never shows me any consideration, but this time he did.
うちの圭一もしばらくの間学校を控えた方がいいんじゃないのか？警察が何とかするまで外出を控えた方が安全だと思うぞ。
そうね。もしもってことに比べたら、学校を何日かお休みにするくらい。
それよりもこんな物騒な事態になったら学校なんか休校にするのが筋じゃないのか？まったく学校の先生方は人の子を何だと思ってるんだ。
Mom and Dad were getting pretty riled up, but at this point I couldn't care less. Besides, that wasn't the only thing I couldn't care less about. The breakfast table, the food in front of me, the time, the date, myself, I really had no interest in anything. The feeling, it was like a dead fog in my mind. It felt like getting dizzy after taking a strong medication.
圭一、学校の勉強はどうなんだ？圭一の方が進んでるくらいじゃないのか？もしそうならしばらくお休みしてもいいんだぞ。
I didn't even feel like answering. Today was Thursday. Only 4 days had passed since the Watanagashi festival. Such a short time, and yet now things were completely different. Everything had changed. The tranquil village, bright and clear as if it were an Indian summer, had undergone a total reversal. People were made to disappear every night, and we couldn't even relax when walking out in broad daylight. The village had become a world of fear. I had no right to curse this outcome. After all, the one responsible for everything was me. That night, I couldn't resist my honestly tiny little and incredibly stupid curiosity and broke taboo.
ここは入ってはいけないところなんだろう。鍵がかかっているのを勝手に開けて押し入るなんて、たとえ物を盗まなくったって犯罪なんだぞ。シオンだってこれが合いびき現場じゃないと分かったなら十分だろう。俺はこんなのには全然興味はないんだ。こんなところにいる間にリカちゃんの演舞が終わっちゃったらどうするんだよ。
I prattled on as I took the lock from Tomitaki-san's hand and put it back on the door. So he's just, I guess, thinking of a different outcome, right? I'll forget everything I saw here, so come on. Let's go, let's go. Look at Takano's face. Takano was fretting, but I pushed her away. Tomitaki-san grinned painfully. Shion's shoulders drooped as if to call me an idiot. Even so, I didn't care. I pushed everyone farther and farther away. Rika-chan's dance was still going on. Then alas, her dance was brought to a close with a roaring applause. I too, until my hands turned red, I clapped and I clapped. Ding dong.
レナちゃんじゃない？
Oh, Rena, my friend.
いつもの時間だから迎えに来たんじゃない？
I looked up at the clock. It was 5 minutes past my time to meet with
圭
Rena.
一、しばらく学校を休んだ方がいいんじゃないのか？
そうだね。気を使ってくれてありがとう。
I rose from my seat and I went to the entrance to greet Rena.
おはよ
今日から集団登校だから遅れちゃダメだよ。
That's right. If we, the ones farthest away, were to be late, the younger kids on the way there would be waiting for
俺
us.
さ、今日からしばらく休むことにするよ。学校。
うん。
Rena answered, shortly nodding.
圭一くんが自分の体に一番優しい過ごし方を選ぶべきだと思う。だから別に引け目を感じることなんかないと思うな。あ、それからこれ回覧板、お母様に渡しておいてくれるかな。
Okay.
いろいろ大事なお知らせがあるみたいだから。
I took the notice. There were a lot of more pages than normal. The one on top announced the disappearance of the mayor, Rika-chan, and Satoko, and that they wanted any information about them. It made my heart ache.
警察も必死に探してくれてる。きっと見つかるから待ってよね。
Rena said, smiling in an attempt to give me courage. Rather than that, though, her smile looked like it was because she herself wanted to believe they were safe.
レナは俺を問い詰めないんだな。
うん。
レナは知ってるんだろ。俺があの晩
西宮殿に忍び込んだことかな。
I was speechless for a moment, but then I bit my lip, made up my mind, and nodded a little.
筒抜けなんだな。まったく悪いことはするもんじゃないよ。
みーちゃんはすごく怒ってたよ。
So she was upset. I suppose she would have been.
でもね、きっとみーちゃんが怒ってたのは忍び込んだことよりもそれを隠していたことだと思うの。圭一くんは自分から言い出して謝らなくちゃいけなかったんじゃないかな。
I should have told her myself and apologized. That troubled me. Just 1 week ago, I did something that I myself should have apologized to Mion for. I had hurt her badly. However, I hadn't realized that at all. Plus, with all the confusion that Chion's appearance had brought, I still hadn't been able to talk to Mion
レ
about
ナ
it.
の言う通りだな。俺はいつもレナに教えられるまで何も気づかなくて。
圭一くん、もしもだよ。もしも圭一くんが悪いことをしたことをすぐに認めてみーちゃんに謝っていたら、リカちゃんとさとこちゃんはいなくならずに済んだのかな。
I couldn't answer right away. I couldn't admit to that. Wasn't Rena telling me right now, though? That I should have admitted to my crime sooner? If I had done that and apologized, would things not have gone in such a horrible direction? Rena's eyes were filled with kindness, but they weren't naive enough to forgive me for keeping silent, and they stared fixedly into my own.
ああ、そうだ。
If I had admitted my crime sooner, then Rika-chan and Satoko wouldn't have to die or disappear. Smack. The palm of Rena's hand slapped me in the cheek. I stood there unmoving, my head still tilted in the direction I'd been hit. It didn't hurt at all.
誰も圭一くんのことを叱らなかったと思う。だから私が代わりに圭一くんを叱るね。
I pressed a hand to my cheek, now warm with embarrassment, and quietly stared down at Rena's feet.
入ってはいけないところに勝手に入るのはとても悪いこと。それはわかる？
ああ。
返事ははいだよ、圭一くん。
はい。
そしてもっと悪いのは 自分が悪いことをしたのを認めないこと。悪いことをするのはとてもいけないことだけど、それを認めて謝らないことはもっともっと悪いことなんだよ。
はい、僕が悪かったです。
Then finally the tension in her face softened and she smiled.
じゃあもう時間だから私は行くよ。
あ
回覧板お母様に渡しておいてね。あと回覧板は暗くなったら持っていかないようにって注意付きだから。
I bent down to pick up the notice, which I dropped when she slapped me. The pages had come out of the clasp and were now making a mess on the floor. I gathered them up one by one. My hands stopped at a single, more light-hearted page with peaceful sentences dancing on it. We still have plenty of homemade soy sauce in stock. What? Feel free to come to the Sonozaki house if you want some. I told you, man. It was Sonozaki house.
なんだこれ。
I picked up the page and scanned the rest of it. They were stockpiling high-quality soy sauce they got from the faraway relatives in the Akita prefecture. They had gotten a big shipment recently. I told you that's where Rika and Satoko went. They couldn't use it at all, so they wanted anyone who wanted some of it to feel free to come over, is what it said. As a PS, it said it arrived in barrels, so please bring a 2-liter bottle or other container for it. That's how it tied together.
醤油をもらいに行くなら園崎家か。レナ、お前ひょっとして知ってたんじゃ。
うん。
That's why she didn't want to mention earlier, right? I don't know, when she was talking like 2 episodes back. Like she didn't want to say because she didn't want to accuse people, right?
知ってた。
Rena had already been suspicious of Mion as soon as she noticed that the big bottle of soy sauce was missing. Rika-chan had taken the bottle and gone to Mion's house, and there she was erased. Rika-chan wasn't coming back, so Satoko called Mion's house since she knew where she had gone, and then Satoko got called there as well. The meeting on the day the mayor disappeared, didn't Uishi-san say that the 3 families participated in it? The 3 families would include the Sonozaki family. Didn't he also say that the current leader was really old, so her heir, Mion, frequently stood in for her at public appearances? While the mayor was returning from the shrine, Mion called out and stopped him. She talked to him and invited him to their house, and then she made him disappear. It was probably even simpler to make Shion disappear. Shion was part of the Sonozaki family. They knew, or they probably knew exactly what she was doing all the time. I'm sure they even knew her part-time job schedule too. Thinking back, wasn't that Angel Mort store managed by the Sonozaki family? Setting up an ambush for her there wouldn't have been any trouble at all.
俺、ミオンのところへ行く。謝ってくるよ。もう全部終わりにしてもらう。ミオンはきっと簡単には許してくれないだろうけど、もうこれ以上誰も犠牲にならないように頼んでくる。
With that, decided there was no need for me to be lazing around here. I put on my shoes and slipped past Rena to exit the house. When she stopped me,
私も行くよ。
レナ、学校はいいのかよ。
学校なんかよりもっと大切な用事だよ。
レナは来るな。この上レナまで巻き込まれたら俺は頭がどうにかなってしまうかもしれない。
Rena didn't move her arm, which was blocking my way.
ケイチ君までいなくなったら私も頭がどうにかなってしまうかもしれない。だからケイチ君だけを行かせない。
Rena argued boldly as tears welled up in her eyes. I saw them and I knew the strength of her
わ
resolve.
かった。行こう。ありがとう、レナ。
Rena nodded slightly but firmly and finally let down the arm blocking me. Let's go. To Mion's house. I'll apologize for the crimes I've committed. Then we'll put an end to these twisted days. After that, I'll pray. And that once more we can return to those fun, lively days. With Rena following me, I left the house. In front of the house, there was a car waiting. Oishi-san, of course.
いやあ、おはようございます。前原さん。それから竜宮さんも。朝から羨ましいですね。
What a truly praiseworthy man he was. If he had been lying in wait so early in the morning just to pressure me into talking. On this morning though, maybe this was actually a good opportunity. Yes?
警察の方ですよね。
ありゃ、竜宮さんには名乗ってませんでしたっけ？これは失礼しました。私、沖宮署の大石と申します。どうぞよろしく。
大石さんに喋るのか？
うん。圭一君の罪は私の平手だけであがなえるけど、みーちゃんの罪はこの人たちにあがなってもらわなくちゃいけない。
Pain and sadness. I looked down as those emotions built up in my heart.
大石さんにお話があります。
はてはて、どんなお話でしょうか？ここで立ち話します？それとも車の中でしますか？
車の中でします。
I only continued to look down weakly. All I could do was be thankful for how dependable Rena was. At Rena's urging, I revealed everything to Oishi-san. The latter, while making sure to throw in murmurs that he was paying attention and every now and then took notes. We continued that way for a while.
どうです。話したらなんだか胸がすっきりしたんじゃないですか？
Oishi-san asked this while scratching his head with his ballpoint pen. Of course, I don't feel better. The price that had been paid up until now for me not knowing or owning up to my crimes had been so immense. But as long as that payment wasn't returned, the load on my chest could never be removed. His radio started to emit static. Jesus, Kumagai.
はい、もしもし。大石です。
Oh, okay, okay.
はいはい。引き続き見張りお願いします。了解しました。3号、7号は先ほど応援が到着、起動しました。あと、課長は大石さんを探してるみたいっす。私のとこにも連絡がつき次第ってさっきから何回もうるさいっすけど、どうします？ね。答えに窮したら、実は居眠りしてて起こさないように言われてるとかごまかしといてください。了解っ
す。The radio grew silent.
いや失礼。仕事の連絡でした。
今園崎家前は動きなしって言ってましたよね。
ありゃん、そんな風に聞こえちゃいました？そりゃ困ったな。秘密にしてくださいよ。課長から 内定の許可はもらってないんですから。
Oishi-san had suspected Mion for a long time.
事情聴取も家宅捜査も、とにかく何にも許可が下りないんですよ。園崎本家を守ろうという園崎家の防衛機能がガッキガキに作用しちゃってるらしくて。令状がなくちゃ、私たち現行犯以外は何にも手出しできませんからね。
大石さんってひょっとして。
Rena's tone of voice alone was enough to make her spite clear as she stared at Oishi-san.
園崎家に踏み込めないものだから圭一君に踏み込ませようとしてたんじゃないですか？
レナ、それはどういう意味だ？
この人は私の想像通りならとても卑劣な人。
人聞きが悪いですね。でもお説は拝聴しますよ。
Oishi-san lit a cigarette and responded to Rena wearing an expression implying he was calm and willing to let her comment slide.
あなたは令状が取れないけれどみーちゃんが怪しいとずっと狙いをつけていた。圭一君を焚きつけて園崎家へ向かわせようと企んだ。そして圭一君に何かがあればそれを口実に踏み込むつもりだった。そうでしょう。
I only understood about a half of what Rena was saying. I knew, however, that Oishi-san had been trying to use me.
その結果圭一君が襲われるかもしれないのに恥知らず。これが警察のやり方なの？
いやいや、こりゃとんだところに名探偵がいたもんです。いやはやいやはや。あなた、うちの試験受ける気ありません？刑事課配属の推薦状書いてあげてもいいですよ。
卑劣か。
Rena spoke quietly, her words dripping with hostility.
私もいろんな悪口を言われたもんですが、若いお嬢さんの短い一言が一番答えますよ。
でも結果として今日までみーちゃんを逮捕しなかったことには感謝しておきますね。
そりゃどうも。
Oishi-san seemed to be enjoying his exchange with Rena. The things this man thought were like a swamp, I could barely see past the surface. It reminded me again of how much I disliked him.
さて、その園崎美音さんの親友であらせられるお二人は、これからどうするつもりです？私が証拠固めを終えて、令状が請求できるまで、のんびり待っててくれるわけですかな？
そんなの待ちません。私たちが行ってみーちゃんを自首させます。
That's right. If she turned herself in rather than be arrested, she might get a lighter sentence. At this point, perhaps that was the only pity I could find in me to afford her.
さてさて、そんなにうまくいくでしょうかね。下手すりゃあなたたちも無事では済まないかもしれませんよ。
Oishi-san was measuring her resolve. So in a strong voice, I declared.
そんなのは覚悟の上です。
Oishi-san gave us an unpleasant yet seemingly satisfied grin. It was then that I realized this man was trying to use us for his own convenience.
もし私たちに何かあったならそれを口実に踏み込んでください。犯人を取り逃がさないようにぐるりと取り囲んでくださるのが一番の希望なんですが。
竜宮さんは交渉も上手です。参りましたよ。降参です。
どういうことだよ。
警察の人がみーちゃんの家を包囲しておいてくれるならこれが万が一の時の保険になるの。
Insurance?
万が一の時の。
Yeah, for the worst case, right? If both of them dies. Plus, it would be another way of pressuring Mion to give herself up, wouldn't it?
ああ、大石より熊ちゃんへ。大石より熊ちゃんへ。お友達が2人、園崎家へ遊びに行きます。造園をかけられるよう準備だけよろしく願います。
Their altogether too short conversation implied that our questioning was already part of their plans.
では、参りましょうか。お茶菓子でも買っていきます？
To eat biscuits? Neither Rena nor I went along with Uishi-san's stupid joke. That I wouldn't go with his joke as well. Come on now. They might actually die when they go there, so it's not time for jokes, man. Like for Uishi, yeah, it feels like he doesn't really care what happens to them. For him, he just wants to solve this case. Uishi stopped the car at the place where we always waited for Mion. Come to think of it, I've never been to Mion's house before. I've only heard that it's right down this road.
お送りできるのはここまでです。情報では、園崎本家は自宅周辺に監視カメラをかなり配置しているらしいんですよ。でもご安心を。何度か死角をついて突入できる位置に若いのが何人か待機してます。指向性マイクで中を伺ってますから、お二人が大きな悲鳴を上げてくださればすぐにわかりますよ。
絶対に説得しますから、自首を認めてくださいね。
In both our eyes was determination. It was the only method available to us for lightening the sins of our good friend.
くれぐれも注意してください。今さら信じないでしょうが、できることならあなたたちに犠牲になってほしくないんですから。
I don't want you to being sacrificed. Ugh, I don't know.
本当に今更だな。
With that rude response, we left the car. Who says that, by the way? The clinging humidity and voices of the cicadas greeted us. I'd never have expected this would be happening today.
行こう、ケイチ君。
Rena took the lead and began to walk. Down the road I'd never been.
レナはミオンの家には行ったことがあるんだよな。
うん、何度もあるよ。とても大きな家でね。お庭なんか山が丸ごと入るくらいあるんだよ。
Dude, what? You could fit a mountain in their
松
backyard.
茸が取れるとかなんとかで、いつもは柵がしてあるんだけどね。
Big enough to fit a mountain. That was amazing. One of the three families controlling Hinamizawa and the head of the family of the Sonozaki clan. Perhaps there was something to be said about its magnitude. The path continued onward, level and uneventful. There were metal fences along its edges, and beyond them were woods with trees growing thickly. The fences were high, the tops of them bent inward, sticking out like sharp spears. Plus, there was a dangerous-looking barbed wire wrapping them. No one could look at them and not feel intimidated. In addition, there were signboards hung up here and there along the fence. Private property of the Sonozaki family, entrance forbidden. Beware of venomous snakes. Active security cameras. Intruders will be charged an entry fee of 1 million
こ
yen.
の森、いや山か、まるまる庭なのか。
庭というか領地だね。見ての通り私有地ではあるけど、手入れも何もしてないから、散策ができるような気持ちいい森というわけでもないし。
She could say that again. It really did feel like a neglected savage woodland. It was dark and damp, and certainly not a forest that made you want to go for a nice walk. Maybe that's just what happens when a landowner has too much land. Honestly, right, if you have a very, very big land, how do you even put a fence around it? Like extremely big, I mean hectares. Like Uishi-san said, there were security cameras hung up all over the place. They had been weathered by wind and rain, casting doubt as to whether they were even functional.
俺たちが来るの、ミオンはあれを通して見てるんだろうか。
見てないと思うな。だってみーちゃんの家は基本的におばあちゃんとみーちゃん本人の2人しか住んでないんだもの。カメラを見張ってる人がいないし。
Would I use this security system?
みーちゃんのお父さんがいろいろ大変な人みたいでね。だから一族がみんなで集まるときにはちゃんと機能しているらしいよ。
That's right. Mion's father, he was a big shot Yakuza, wasn't he? Rena smoothly danced around the answer as she explained. At last, a huge gate as big as I'd imagined appeared. Was she living by herself with her grandma in a house with such a grand gateway?
いるかな。
The old buzzer made a dull sound. Was it cut off in the middle and not getting to the house? We waited long enough without a response for me to start thinking like that. However, we finally heard footsteps walking through gravel on the other side of the gate. I nervously balled my hands, my palms now sweating into a fist. There was a clang of a bolt being released and the gate opened slightly. The person peeking out the gap was none other than Mion.
こんな時間に珍しいね。
Is it really Mion?
二人とも学校は？
Mion didn't seem all that surprised at visitors arriving in the morning, which wasn't a normal time. In fact, she almost seemed relaxed as if she knew we were coming beforehand.
学校は休んだよ。
ケイちゃんはともかく、レナも？二人とも不良なんだからな。
Mion smiled lightly in the way that the Mion we knew always did.
立ち話もなんでしょ。入りなよ。
She gestured for us to follow her. I hesitated for a moment, looking at Rena.
行こう。
Rena smiled cheerfully as if she were passing through the gate of a good friend's house, and then did just that. I rallied myself and then go through the gate too. On the other side, it hadn't been maintained very well, but it was clear that the lot was magnificently wide. So you had like a small village inside? Not a small village, but a lot of houses, I mean. It wasn't quite what you think when you hear a mansion, but it was very clear, clearly a vast place.
ケイちゃんはうちに来るの初めてだったっけ？
ああ。でけえ家じゃねえか。
Yeah, the house is really big though.
今時合掌造りなんて流行らないよ。観光資源にはなるかもしれないけどね。
But very old school.
私は早くごくごく平均的な鉄筋コンクリートに建て替えてほしいと思ってるよ。
Mion dryly smiled as she said that, then closed the gate and relocked the heavy bolt.
気にしないで。最近は物騒だからね。日中でもこれくらいはしておかないと。
ああ、そうだな。
Maybe it was my imagination, but I thought I saw the hint of a shadow in her smile.
では、ご案内申し上げます。どうぞこちらへ。
Mion bowed to us like a worker at a high-class hotel, then pivoted on her heel and began to walk. Rena gripped my stiffening arm lightly.
ケイチ君、硬くなりすぎかな。
Dude, who wouldn't be tense in this situation? Come on.
私たちはみーちゃんに会いに来たんだよ。そんなに緊張することはないんだから。
That's right. When I get nervous, I tend to let everything show in my face. I'll stop tensing up. Even if something were to happen, there were two of us. Oishi-san's subordinates were waiting outside the gate for us too. There was nothing to worry about. After thinking about it that much, I realized my nervousness was already gone and laughed at myself.
なんだこりゃ。
What is this?
ミオン、この新聞紙の上に置いてある漬物石はなんだ？邪魔だぞ。
There was a pile of newspapers on the floor of the entrance and there was a large rock on top of them. I didn't understand why something like that was here. Rena noticed me looking at it questioningly and giggled.
レナは知ってるのか？これはなんだ？何かのおまじないか？
イちゃんがよくわからないならそれをどかしてそこに靴を脱いでもいいんだけど。
Hmm.
ケイチくん、その石の真上にね、ツバメの巣があるの。
え？あ、本当だ。
人様の家なのにツバメが勝手に入ってきて巣を作ってるってわけ。代々語り継いでるのか、季節になると決まってここに巣を作るんだよ。迷惑してるんだけどね。
つまりね、そこはツバメの糞とかが落ちてきて危ないから靴を脱がないようにっていう目印なの。
I couldn't help but laugh at the silly contrabands. My laughter naturally spread to the other two.
園崎家も大昔養蚕とかやってたことがあるらしくてね。ご先祖様はツバメ退治に躍起になったそうだけどね。それを思うとこれはちょっと罰当たりなのかな。ま、上がって上がって。
The inside of the house wasn't very bright at all. Oh, you have a river there? It was dimly lit, in fact, but mysteriously I could still feel an elegance to the place. Mion seemed to want a more modern building, but traditional houses like this aren't bad either. Honestly, it looks really good though. Yeah, right?
冗談でしょ。隙間風は入るし、冬場は寒いし。人の家を勝手に文化財にして改築を妨害しないでもらいたいね。一番の理想はケイちゃんの家でしょ。あれは羨ましいよな。
Yeah, Keiichi's house is much more modern, right? Yay.
冬場は暖かそうだし。あ、でも雪下ろしは大変かもね。
雪下ろしは大変って、そんなに雪が降るのか、ひなみ沢は。緯度は関東より南なくらいだろ。ここいらって暖かい土地なんじゃないのか。
ケイチくん知らないの？ひなみ沢は豪雪地帯なんだよ。大雪が降るとみんな埋まっちゃうの。玄関なんか埋まっちゃう時もあるんだよ。止めた車が完全に埋まっちゃって見つからないことだってあるんだから。
I wasn't aware of that. Hinamizawa, was that a bad place in the winter? Come to think of it, my dad, he said something like this place got plenty of snow so we could have fun building igloos. Still, your front door getting buried and not being able to find your car? That's way too much snow.
地理の授業で習ったでしょ。日本海側は大陸からの寒風がそのまま流れてくるからね。山脈で遮られてぬくぬくしてるような軟弱な太平洋側とはわけが違うんだから。
俺、軟弱でもぬくぬくでも何でもいい。寒いのは嫌だ。
これは今年の冬はケイちゃんを寒さに慣らすための強化合宿が必要だね。
嫌だ嫌だ、全力で嫌だ。寒いのは嫌いだ。強化合宿も嫌いだ。両方合わさったらもっと嫌いだ。
I like this though. I mean, they're having a nice conversation, right? Yeah, I like this. Mion laughed more uproariously than she ever had, then told us she'd bring out some tea and left her seat for the moment. Or, yeah.
でもね、冬は冬で楽しいことがいっぱいあるんだよ。冬の部活もね、きっと楽しいんだよ。
冬の部活か。実に嫌な響きのある部活だぞ。
But yeah, stop saying that, Rena. Sasako and Rika, they're gone.
寒中水泳やら雪中行軍やら、ここはいつから八甲田山になったんだ。
確かに冬場の罰ゲームは辛いのが多いね。雪が降ってる校庭でリオのカーニバルをさせられたことある。
I see the terror of our club cared not for the season. The victor would be decided by who could best adapt to the winter-only events.
雪合戦もやるし、かき氷の大食いとか雪中宝探しとか。
だからなんで外で遊ぶんだよ。 雪が降ってんだから、ぬくぬくとお部屋でテーブルゲームで遊べばいいじゃないかよ。
圭一くん、そんなこと言ってると冬場はいっぱい負けちゃうかもね。圭一くん、罰ゲームいっぱいでレナは負けない。
はうじゃねえ。
盛り上がってるな。壁が薄いんだからぶち抜かないようにしてよね。
The paper sliding door opened. Mion returned with a pot and complete tea set.
お茶受けはごませんでいい？羊羹とか気の利いたものがなくて申し訳ないね。
あ、いいよいいよ。別にお茶を飲みに来たわけじゃないし。
And with those words, a smile disappeared from Rena's face. Here we go. Serious moments. As she did. That one careless statement reminded us of what we had nearly been able to forget. I had wanted to enjoy this peaceful time for a little longer, but we had to put an end to that with those honestly careless words. When she noticed a smile disappear from Rena's expression, Mion too changed hers. It was as if the cheerful air that was like a warm spring day until a moment ago had slipped through the cracks in the paper door and altogether disappeared. There was no point in regretting it now. We did not come here to chat and enjoy ourselves. Mion silently poured the tea. During that time, both Rena and I sat kneeling without uttering a word.
どうぞ。召し上がれ。
We couldn't even mutter a word of acknowledgement at those natural words of courtesy.
毒なんか入ってないよ。そこまで信用ないかな。心外だね。
Mion gave a bitter smile at that and let her shoulders droop. We all remained silent. We hoping that someone else would speak up first. That was, however, the one thing we didn't want to do, and so we sat for a long time. At last, Mion smiled scornfully and opened her mouth to speak.
おいおい、ケイちゃんもレナも。客はそっちなんだよ。用があって来たんじゃないの？そっちから切り出してくれなきゃ、おじさんも困っちゃうんだけどな。
Rena and I exchanged glances, and we both resigned ourselves. Rena opened her mouth to speak first, so I stopped her.
圭一くん。
いいんだ。俺は来るべくして来たんだ。俺から喋らせてくれ。
うん。わかった。
ケイちゃんが私に何の話かな？お宅のお嬢さんを私にください。ダメだよ。うちのレナはケイちゃんとは釣り合わないね。味噌汁で顔を洗って出直しておいで。
Afterwards, I thought her mean remarks were Mion's own way of showing consideration. Mion had said those mean things in a totally normal voice, and it drained the tension from my shoulders.
ミオ、まず謝ることがある。
ケイちゃんが？何を？
Mion pretended that she didn't know what I was talking about, but I clearly got my point across.
綿流しの晩、俺は神社の祭具殿に入ったんだ。
I could see Mion's expression immediately become harder.
入ってはいけない場所だったのは知ってた。でもほんのちょっとした探検のつもりで。でも
Sorry.
いけないことだったんだよな。謝る。この通り。
To display my deepest sincerity, I pressed my forehead to the table. I'd meant it as my way of frustrating myself. I figured it wouldn't feel sincere enough if I raised my head right away, so I left it there on the table for a while. Mion didn't say anything. With my face down, I couldn't tell what sort of expression Mion had. Only the voices of the cicadas filled the room. Mixed with them, I could hear the sound of the clock ticking. That was all. When I started to struggle to breathe from having my head down for so long, Mion told me to stop.
参ったな。いきなり直球勝負で来るとは思わなかったよ。参った。
I looked up to see that Mion's face was calm, but she was smiling faintly.
ケイちゃんにとっては面白半分の探検でも、それが笑い事では済まないと思ってる人たちも大勢いるってことを、ちょっとでも理解してくれたなら、それでいいよ。郷に入りては郷に従えって昔から言うもんね。
あれからもう何日も経ってる。今更だとは思うが謝る。悪かった。許してくれ。
I could feel pitiful tears welling up within me. If I had done this sooner, maybe nothing terrible would have happened.
いいよ。ケイちゃんが悪いことをしたと思ったならそれでいいんじゃない？
Mion spoke like it was someone else's problem and I wasn't happy about it.
兄ちゃん、ケイチ君はちゃんと真面目に謝ってるんだよ。みーちゃんも真剣に答えてあげるべきじゃないのかな。
私は真剣だよ。レナには私が不真面目そうに見える？
見えるよ。
Rena was giving her tit for tat, and so the room's atmosphere quickly began to grow sharper. She was right, even though I came here to speak from the heart like this, it felt like she hasn't been taking this seriously. Obviously, Rena isn't fond of that.
ケイチ君、もういいよ。全部話そう。みーちゃんもそれを望んでいるようだし。
I had known it would turn out like this from the beginning. Hadn't I come here prepared for that? I mustered my willpower and bit my lip.
ミオ、おとといリカちゃんとサトコを呼んだろ。
覚えはないけど。
Wait, what?
そう思うに足る根拠があるなら聞かせてもらえる？
夕方過ぎのお夕食前の時間、リカちゃんが来たはずだよ。お醤油の大瓶を持ってお裾分けしてもらいに。
Mion was trying to keep from showing any reaction, but I didn't miss her eyelid twitching just a little bit.
どうしてそう思う？
そんなに難しい話じゃない。みーちゃんも見たでしょ？リカちゃんの部屋。
Mion put a finger to her forehead and acted like she was thinking.
冷ややっこがあるのにお醤油がなかった。そして流しの下にあるはずの醤油の大瓶も瓶ごとなかった。
何それ？それが私のとこへ来る理由になるわけ？
ミオ、いい加減にしろ。お前が自分で回覧板に書いたんじゃないか。醤油をお裾分けするって。
Mion scratched her head. I heard her ever so faintly click her tongue. It was though we found out she'd purposely given too little change to a servant. That's all I could feel from her.
そしてみーちゃんはリカちゃんを隠してしまった。
You err. What do you mean? You error? What is this? Is this a wrong text? You error. You hit her. Rena hesitated for a moment. I could tell that she didn't want to use the word erase, okay? And that she was struggling to find another word.
そして 本当はそれで終わりのはずだったんだよね。みーちゃんにとっては。
そりゃあどういう意味かな。
リカちゃんがみーちゃんの家に行くことをさとこちゃんに言い残していたのは誤算だったんじゃないかな。
Oh my god, what the hell was that?
そしてさとこちゃんはみーちゃんの家に電話をした。うちのリカがお邪魔してませんこと？うん。きっとこんな感じ。
似てる似てる。
みーちゃんはちょっとまずいと思ったんだよね。リカちゃんがここに来たことを知る人間がいたから。だからさとこちゃんも誘い出そうと思った。
誘い出す？へえ。どんな感じでかな。
Mion prodded Rena on as if trying to get to the good part of an interesting story. I, however, knew I had been watching Mion change the whole time. She was restlessly twirling her fingers. She had clearly lost her calm. Of course, it was really a slight thing, and only I, who had been watching her this whole time, would have known. Mion was panicking. What Rena was saying must have been a bullseye.
きっとこんな感じだよ。さとこ、実は今日食事を作りすぎちゃったんだけど食べに来ない？リカちゃんは先に来てもう食べてるよ。こんな感じ。
Scratch. Mion's nails dug into her knee.
へえ。電話の内容の記録テープがあるわけでもないのに、どうしてそこまで。
冷蔵庫にさとこちゃんの作った2人分のお夕食がまるまる手つかずでラップに包まれて入ってたから。
For a few moments, Mion's face was frozen in utter amazement. She looked like she couldn't believe that this person in front of her was Rena.
そんなことで、どうやったら電話で喋った内容まで察しがついちゃうわけ？
Yeah, what did she say again? I was looking at Mion's face.
長くなるから説明は省くけど、冷蔵庫の中身がみーちゃんの呼び出した話の内容まで如実に物語っちゃってるの。
Mion's jaw remained on the floor. That was the only way I could describe her face.
これは
Oh my god.
とんだ名探偵が身近にいたもんだよ。
Okay, I thought she was gonna laugh. You like a creepy laugh.
まさか冷蔵庫の中身だけで電話の内容まで見破るとは。参ったな。参った参った。
As if a dam had burst, Mion convulsed into laughter. Her laughter, though, definitely didn't make us want to laugh as well. Mion grew tired of her dumb laughter, heaved a big sigh, and scratched her head. It almost seemed like Mion had lost a detective punishment game for the club or something, and her punishment had been decided. Oh, how fun that would have been if it were true.
とんだ名探偵か。みーちゃんこそ大石さんがした会話の内容までよく察しがつくね。大石さんも私のこととんだ名探偵って言ったもの。
As soon as she heard Uishi-san's name, Mion's eyes began to display panic more clearly so that anyone would be able to tell.
ミオン、警察はもうとっくにお前を疑ってるんだ。この家も大石さんの部下が踏み込もうと今も様子を伺ってる。
Mion attempted to feign calm, but it looked like she was having a hard time with that. Part of her couldn't believe that the police had her surrounded, and she closely examined Rena's facial expression. However, she couldn't detect a hint of falsehood. Finally, Mion seemed to accept the fact that the police were encircling the house.
村長さんもみーちゃんが
富武さんと高野さんもミオンなのか？
Mion didn't answer our rapid-fire questions. I could clearly see impatience in her eyes, which were still feigning calm. At last, Mion, who had been sitting there lazily, readjusted her cushion and sat herself upright. At that moment, the atmosphere in the room changed completely. Mion's expression also changed. The impatience and wonderment in her expression disappeared, and she became so solemn you would think she was about to conduct a tea ceremony. I could sense it. It was now in this moment. Mion had ceased to be Mion, but had changed into Mion Sonozaki, the current heir to the Sonozaki house. That solemn atmosphere about her was clearly abnormal, and was entirely different from that of the Mion that I knew. And now I could believe it. Now I could believe that she was a young leader who had commanded the entire Sonozaki clan. Mion quietly placed both her hands on the tatami mat and gave a beautifully elegant bow as if this really were a tea ceremony, and named herself.
初めてご挨拶申し上げます。園崎本家当主跡継ぎ
Wow.
ミオンでございます。
Mion's movements were so elegant they could cut, and we couldn't even answer her. All Rena and I could do was watch, baffled at her actions, which we could never imagine the normal her doing.
本日はようこそ園崎本家においでくださいました。当主お領に代わりまして皆様にご挨拶申し上げます。皆様におかれましてはいろいろお尋ねになりたいことがおありの様子。私にお話しできることでしたら包み隠さずお話ししたいと存じます。
What? What did Mion just say? Mion said she would answer anything we asked. There was a strong light resolve in her
本
eyes.
当に何を尋ねてもいいんだな。
知る限りをお話しいたしましょう。皆様もそれを望んでここにいらしたのでしょうから。
Okay, Rena and I exchanged glances. There was a mountain of things we wanted to ask Mion. However, we hesitated for a moment on what we should ask first. The first question Rena gave was extremely abstract, but it was the question everyone wanted to know right now.
どうしてこんなことを？
That was what I wanted to ask as well. Why would you do this? That didn't only go for Rika-chan and Satoko. It went for the mayor, Takano-san, and Tomitaki-san as well. No, even further back, for all the incidents that had been occurring every year. For a little while, Mion couldn't respond. Right when we realized the question was too vague and tried to put it into more concrete terms, she finally opened her mouth to speak.
その問いに対する答えは少し長いものになります。それでもよろしければどうかご清聴いただきたく存じます。
She spoke clearly. She spoke with a clarity that a grandmother might use when telling a story from a long time ago.
ひなみ沢村がかつて鬼ヶ淵村と呼ばれていたことをご存知ですか？
The music is beautiful here though, even though we're confronting her like this. Rena nodded lightly, then shot me a glance asking me if I did. I returned her nod. Hinamizawa was once called Onigafuchi Village, yes. I heard all about it at the night from Takano-san in the ritual storehouse. They firmly believed that demon blood ran through their veins and cut off all contact with the outside world. They were worshipped by those in the villages at the foot of the mountains and treated like transcendents, those capable of magic.
そうです。鬼ヶ淵村のご先祖様たちは鬼の血を引く誇り高き仙人たちでした。麓の村々の人たちは崇め、そして敬いました。ですが そういう空気も徳川の世が終わるとともに廃れていきました。
The black ships arrived. The era of the samurai had ended. The era of the national isolation ended. And the tradition of worshipping Onagafuchi village quickly disappeared. Those things that linger from the past were all to be detested. That was the kind of era it became.
明治になり、古い歴史を持つ鬼ヶ淵村の名称は一方的にひなみ沢村に改められてしまいました。古い因習を一掃しようとする明治政府の思惑が強く働いたのだと聞かされています。
The abolition of feudal domains and the establishment of prefectures. An era had begun seeing Japan sprinting up the stairs that were beyond their means to try and reach the same level of the rest of the world. All things in the Western style were to be extolled, while all old traditional things were to be scorned. That was the sort of era it was.
そういう時代の激変の中で、あっという間に鬼ヶ淵村は消えてしまったのです。
At last, Japan, provoked by the great European powers colonizing countries in Asia one by one, began a policy to increase its wealth and military power so that it could stand as a global power on its own right. Conscription began and they won war after war, the First Sino-Japanese War and the Russo-Japanese War, and until the Pacific War broke out. They recklessly climbed the staircase towards modernization.
この頃にはもう鬼ヶ淵村の不可侵性は失われていました。かつて仙人と崇められた村人たちは否認扱いを受け、神聖な鬼ヶ淵村はいつの間にか合病患者の隔離集落の慣れの果てであるという根も葉もないレッテルを貼られ、苦難の時代を迎えることになったのでした。
Thus began harsh days where one would suffer unreasonable discrimination just because people knew one was from Onagafuchi. The children in the village at the foot of the mountain were taught not to go near Hinamizawa because filthy germs were rampant there. Children who had come in contact with the children in Hinamizawa would cry and wail as their parents purified the spot where they were touched by rubbing salt on it. One of the adults said to the children that if you got lost in Hinamizawa, you would be kidnapped by demons and cut up into pieces and devoured. Never ever go near the terrifying village of the man-eating demons. That's what we taught them. Another said that during a famine long ago, the people of Hinamizawa gathered up all the corpses they discarded into the dry riverbeds, then cooked and ate them in order to survive. Grounded stories but said in such seriousness. Basis slander added to the basis slander, making Onagafuchi village historically accurate, thrilling history all the more believable. Perhaps the chain of undue discrimination was a manifestation of the people's anxiety toward the uncertain times. Of course, the story didn't end only with the perspective of the children. If anyone found out you were from Onagafuchi, you would be turned down from any job you applied for. People would even go back on engagements and marriage proposals. As for marriages, where one partner had lied about it, as soon as the truth got out, they were made to divorce.
裁判も起こしました。出身の問題は離婚する重要な理由にはなり得ないと訴えて。でも敗訴しました。出身の虚偽は結婚の上での重大な詐称行為にあたるのだそうで。
ひどいね。そんなの。
I heard about such discrimination towards those in small villages in civics class. Just because others knew you were from a tiny hamlet, you would be subjected to every societal disadvantage. There was a modern form of bullying. Though I only memorized that because it was going to be on a test one time. I recalled being suspicious about it and unable to believe such discrimination occurred in modern Japan.
まあ、 自業自得と言えないこともないのかもしれません。私たちのご先祖様は自分たちに鬼の血が流れていることを誇りに思い自慢し、麓の人々を蔑んで暮らしてきたのですからね。その神秘性で麓の村人たちを怖がらせ、畏怖と貢ぎ物の献上を要求してきたのですから。
With that, Mion smiled for the first time, albeit self-mockery.
太平洋戦争中は国民一丸のスローガンが流れながらも、ひなみ沢村の人々はさまざまな差別を受け続けました。数え出したらキリがないくらい。夫や息子を戦場に送り出し、15の女たちも心がすさんでいたのでしょうね。当時をよく覚えている祖母は、それは苦しい時代だったと回想しています。
Even that bitterly long war, however, finally ended in
多数
1945.
の男手を失ったひなみ沢にも、ようやく父や夫、息子たちが戻ってまいりました。もちろん帰らぬ者も多かった。それでも男手がなく村を維持することにすら限界をきたしていたひなみ沢にとって、それはとても喜ばしいことでした。
MacArthur's Ch.2 set to work on drastically improving mindsets and strove for the abolition of unfair discrimination. They could feel day breaking on the dismal night that was the previous era.
廃村寸前だったひなみ沢をもう一度立て直そう。そういう機運が高まり、村人たちは村を少しでも豊かにするために働き始めました。
During that time, someone appeared who built up a fortune through a vast number of dealings in the black market. That was Mion's grandfather, the husband of the elderly current family leader Sohei Sonozaki. Okay, Sohei Sonozaki.
宗平は中国大陸に出兵し、ハルピンで食料倉庫の管理をしていたといい、撤退時に上官や仲間たちと共謀して軍の缶詰をごっそりと盗み出していたのでした。それを瀬戸内海某所に隠し、闇市で高値で売りさばいて大きな富を得たのです。
Sohei didn't spend that fortune for his own pleasure either. He entrusted an entire amount to his wife, the head of the Sonozaki house.
廃れたひなみ沢を復興させよう。村人すべては家族であり、この富は共有の財産である。現当主である祖母はそう宣言しました。この大きな富はその後のひなみ沢の復興の大きな力となったのです。
I see. With that, Hinamizawa came back to life, and that's how the Sonozaki family had established its current prosperity.
もちろん闇市で財を成したことを妬む人たちも大勢いましたが、もう村人は気にしなかった。
They succeeded in one business venture after the other. Those who had succeeded really supported those who followed them. The giant family of Hinamizawa, tied together with strong bonds, kept on expanding its influence. The Sonozaki family, the center of everything, would be extolled for a long time as the minds behind Hinamizawa's revitalization.
その活躍の中心人物がみーちゃんのおばあちゃんなんだね。すごいよね。大活躍。
Mion looked like she was honestly happy Rena had praised her.
ですが、昭和30年頃にまたしても逆風が吹き始めます。それが人肉缶詰疑惑でした。
Canned flesh incident? It sounded so hideous that just hearing it made me nauseous.
祖父園崎宗平の上官だったと名乗る男が告白したのです。あの缶詰は人肉の缶詰だったと。
Hinamizawa, a village in which demons lived and ate humans, They were just about to wipe away that cursed stigma, and then the light they had finally started to see in their peaceful lives grew hazy and disappeared. The shocking truth as revealed by his former superior. The stolen provisions from the old Japanese army that had been a huge cornerstone for Hinamizawa's revival had been canned in human flesh. Why were the cans like that? Wasn't Sohei just the manager of a food warehouse? His superior revealed that Sohei Sonozaki didn't have a job of managing the food.
実は宗平は戦時中、ハルピンでペストネズミの駆除や伝染病患者の死体運搬の仕事をさせられていたのでした。
And had been unfair treatment, and all because of the lowliness of his origins. As a result, though he had returned safely without having been sent to the front lines or being detained, perhaps that was the only fortunate thing to happen to him. Finally, Sohei was enlisted as an assistant at a military medical institution. There, however, he found something even worse than low, scorned, depressing customs of Onigafuchi village in the research they were carrying out. Could that have been, well, you know, the bacteriological corpse in the old Japanese army or whatever? Keiichi-kun, you've heard of that? What could it be? I was pretty sure it was Unit 731. It was a nightmare unit that devoted itself to researching terrifying bacteriological weapons to break the deadlock in the war. They used many innocent people as fodder for horrible human experiments. They methodically observe how many days a new strain would take to kill the victims, how many days it would be when injected, how many days it would be when swallowed. They dissected many people to find that out. Sometimes they wouldn't even bother waiting until they were dead and dissected them while they were still alive. They would strap them into centrifuges while still alive and crush them in decompression chambers while still alive. When a live human decompresses, all the holes in their body gets pushed outwards and their intestines get pushed out of their anus. Oh my god, like a snake winding out of it. I have a feeling I saw something like that in a documentary one time.
胸くそが悪くなるぜ。それでもひなみ沢の人間を蔑むのかよ。
本当に。
Mion agreed with me, giving a faint sad smile. It wasn't much in the way of communication, but for some reason I was happy to have it right now.
宗平がいた部隊はそれよりはもっと温情的な研究をしていました。それは戦地での困難な食料調達に関する具体的な手法の研究でした。
Oh, sorry, the military designs at the start of the war completely fell apart and a chronic food shortage broke out all over the battlefront. The food shortage led to malnutrition, and as their natural resistance lowered, the soldiers fell to one disease after the other. Spirit and morale lowered as well. They wouldn't be able to maintain their force at this rate. Apparently, that's where the research started. At first, it was to find methods of delivering food to the battlefields. It was very broad and included things from violent methods like stealing from citizens to survival methods like how to cook unfamiliar insects and plant life. As they were working on the details, they kept straying off course and going out of control until they finally knocked down a door called Taboo.
戦場で一番入手しやすいタンパク源は何だと思います？
Rena and I knew the answer without being told. Couldn't even answer that though. So we didn't answer.
そう。彼らは人間を食材として扱う方法を研究していたのです。彼らは時には敵の、時には戦友の血肉をハンデでも戦い抜くことが国に報いる究極の奉仕になる。そういう競技を大真面目に組み上げていったのです。滑稽な話ですね。祖父を人肉食いと蔑んでおきながら、自分たちはさらにその上を言っていたのですから。祖父はいつも思っていたそうです。たとえ自分が卑しい食人鬼だとしても、彼らはそれよりもはるかに醜い鬼なんだと。 だからいくら蔑まれたってちっとも答えないと。
At last, they had a handful of test prototypes. When the soldiers learned it was human flesh, however, the scientists couldn't make anyone eat it. So it was apparently sent to the front lines. Jesus Christ. The cans were labeled meat substitutes, and so they wouldn't accidentally eat themselves, they stamped the bottoms with a
お
circle.
腹を空かせた前線の兵隊さんにはどの試作品もとても好評だったそうです。中でも醤油で煮たすき焼き風のものが一番好評だったそうで。
もうやめてよみーちゃん。気分が悪くなってきた。
Rena was really pale-faced, and she looked like she was having difficulty continuing to sit on her knees. Mion looked like she had more to say, but she sighed lightly and stopped there.
じゃあそのミオンのじいさんが持ち帰ったという缶詰は。
真偽は分かりません。晩年まで僧兵は人肉であることを否定し続けました。ですがひなみ沢の急激な復興を妬む人々は人肉を売って財を成した鬼畜と呼び、村人をまたしても蔑み始めたのです。また子供たちが林立てられ石を投げつけられる時代に戻ってしまったのです。
The sighing silence came back. What a seriously hopeless and sad story it was. They discriminated, were discriminated against, discriminated, and were discriminated against. Why must they attach worth and rank to it? Why can't they live without looking down on people? Why can't everyone enjoy life together? I didn't know.
当主である祖母はある時村の子供たちにこう言いました。
If they throw a stone at you or at one of you, then the two of you must throw stones back. The children asked her, "What if they threw stones at two of us?" Of course, the answer was simple.
2人に石を投げられたら4人で石を、8人に棒で覆われたら16人で追い返し、30人に中傷されたなら60人で怒鳴り返せと。
Finally, the children asked, "What if we were attacked by 1,000 people?" Even that answer was simple.
1000人に襲われたならひなみ沢の全員で立ち向かいなさいと。それは決起を促す劇のようですらありました。祖母は園崎本家当主としてだけでなくひなみ沢の母太郎として立ち上がったのです。
It was halfway through 1955. It was a time when the riots over the treaty with the US were rampant at the time of battle in action. The people of Hinamizawa joined together and fought, treating unfair discrimination towards one crime against them all. It didn't matter whether one was a child or an adult. If they heard that a child had been told off, then everyone would crowd the house of the perpetrator, acting as a whole. If they heard an adult had been treated unfairly, men and women, young and old, would all band together and stand up against it. If you meddled with people from Hinamizawa, you would be in trouble. They probably figured that if they could make others think that they win.
ケイちゃんも町で不良に絡まれた時、たくさんの人たちに助けられたのを思い出しませんか？
How do you know that though? You weren't there. I recall how much of an impression it had left on me. That the people in Hinamizawa boldly came to my rescue, yet the people of Okonomiya averted their eyes so they wouldn't get involved.
祖母が戦い、両親がそれを引き継ぎ、ようやくひなみ沢にも平和が戻った。もっともその平和もとても薄い川の上に乗ったものです。この100年の歴史を見れば、今の平穏など揺れ返す天秤のたまたまの狭間としか言えないでしょう。
どうして？
Could I really have an opinion on such a long and difficult history when I hadn't moved here for more than a year ago? Yet, I said it anyway.
どうしてみんなで仲良く暮らし合えないんだよ。高野さんに聞いたお社様の昔話はどうなったんだよ。
Man and demon joined hands and lived together in harmony. Didn't Oyashiro-sama remain in this world to watch over that?
おとぎ話です。人と鬼は実在しても、それを調停するお社様は実在しなかったということです。
それでお社様のたたりを起こすことになったの。
A cold gust of wind blows in from the outside, fluttering Mion's long, beautifully clear hair. Mion kept her refreshing smile without answering and didn't even change her expression. But even that became a silent answer.
ひなみ沢村を再び鬼ヶ淵村のように崇められるに足る神聖な存在に。それが我ら鬼ヶ淵村の末裔の悲願であり、園崎本家の鬼を継ぐ者の宿命なのです。
鬼を継ぐ者？
我が園崎本家は代々当主の名に鬼の一字を加える習慣があるのです。
Yeah, I think we saw this in the tips, right?
私の名前を手のひらにでも書いていただければ一目瞭然かと。
I traced out the word Mion on the palm of my hand. Oh, she's right. The character for demon is in there.
名前だけではありませんよ。この体にも鬼が刻まれているのです。
Oh, yeah, I want to see this tattoo, right? Show me. When she said that, she quietly rose and began to lay her hand on her clothing.
いいよみーちゃん、見せる必要なんて
Oh, hell.
全然ない。
The hell are you saying, man? That was the... We need to say that.
ありがとう。
Oh my god. Rena, what the hell is your problem? Then I need to see that if this is Shion or me. My god. Most likely, somewhere on her body there was a permanent seal such as a tattoo or marking that proved that she inherited a demon. Mion didn't sit back down. She smoothly opened the paper door onto the porch. A refreshing breeze began in the damp air filling the room. Okay. Mion quietly gazed out at the wide yard for quite a while. On her shoulders was something I could never imagine the normal Mion carrying. It was heavy, truly heavy. History of Hinamizawa, no, of Onigafuchi, weighing down on them. What kind of words could I possibly say to Mion like that? Rena wasn't saying anything to her either. Only the voice of the cicadas drowned out the silence. At last, after a long period of nothing, Mion murmured.
この5年間の連続事件ね。私が直接関わったものもあるし、間接的に関わったものもある。いくつかは園崎家だけでなく、他の御三家の君吉家や古出家が関わっているものもあるけど、その全ての中心に私がいたと思う。
She said it all without turning around with her back to us. At some point, her tone of voice had gone back to being the Mion we knew.
私は自分のしたことには信念を持ってるし、罪の意識などまるでない。あるとすれば、私の跡継ぎも決まらないうちに舞台を退かねばならないことくらいかな。私を捕まえて、それで法治国家の体裁が整うなら、それも時代の流れかなって。この100年で一番平和なひなみ沢を見ながら引退できるのは、ひょっとすると歴代の園崎家の当主で一番の幸せなのかもしれないし。
Mion leaned a shoulder against a paper door, then slid down it and flopped on the ground. It was an act of such resignation that just seeing it made me hurt inside. The numerous terrible crimes Mion had been part of suddenly began to fade from my mind. Hey Mion, I don't care what happens after this. Can you just try to struggle as much as you can? Try to run away? As soon as I began to think that way, Rena's ringing voice filled the room.
でもみーちゃんはリカちゃんとサトコちゃんを殺したんだよね。
And the sharp points of her words stabbed into my chest despite not being directed at me.
他の人のことは殺してもいいとも言わないよ。でもとにかくみーちゃんはリカちゃんとサトコちゃんを殺した。
Rena's words were more biting than I had ever heard. Even now that we knew all of the heavy history pressing down on Mion's shoulders, she had criticized her for killing our friends.
私が園崎家の役目を負うように、リカちゃんだって古出家の役目を負っていた。その役目が西宮殿を守ることだった。
My chest tightened.
去年あたりからリカちゃんが言ってたのは知ってたんだよ。西宮殿の勘抜きが重くて辛い。もっと簡単な鍵に付け替えたいって。先代の神主さんでも重いと嘆いてた代物だからね。リカちゃんに辛いのは重々承知だった。
僕がちゃんと番をしますですから、もっと軽い鍵に変えてほしいなのです。
I replied on the behalf of the Sonozaki family leader. Ever since a string of freak death incidents, there seem to be people who are insolent towards Oyashiro-sama, so you shouldn't replace the lock with a simpler one. That said, the leader of the Kimiyoshi family, Old Man Kimiyoshi, If it's that difficult for you, Rika-chan, then I think it's okay to replace the lock, he said. The very face that it was locked with a key was an indication of it being somewhere you mustn't enter. There was nobody bad enough to break through it and go inside, he said. Even if we were alike as leaders, I couldn't find it in me to argue with Old Man Kimiyoshi since I owed him so much. In the end, we decided to change out the lock on the storehouse and switched it to a really cheap light padlock.
おじいちゃん、本当に大丈夫なんですか？バッチャもできることなら鍵は前のままの方が良かったと言ってます。
大丈夫だよ。心配性だな。何かあったらおじいちゃんがちゃんと責任を取ってあげるから。
本当ですね。君吉家の当主として責任を取られるという意味ですね。おじいちゃんもこの中に収められているものがどれだけ神聖なものかよくご存知のはず。
大丈夫なのですよ。このひなみ沢に鍵を開けて勝手に入ってしまう悪い猫さんはいませんなのです。にゃーにゃー。
Sobs escaped from my mouth, I'm sorry. Something hot and wet dripped down in spades and fell onto the tatami mat.
西宮殿に賊が忍び込んだという話は渡流しの祭りの最中にもう私の耳に入っていました。賊は4人。その日のうちに手が下されることになりました。同時に西宮殿に賊を許した古出家のリカちゃんと君吉家のおじいちゃんも責任を問わなければならなくなってしまった。
My tears dripped and dropped. Until just now, I had decided that it was Mion's fault that she killed Rika-chan and the others. That was wrong. The ones who killed him wasn't Mion. It was me.
俺が殺したも当然なんだ。
ケイチ君。
I had a chance to stop this tragedy from happening and yet I didn't. Cheap curiosity got the better of me and I didn't. If at the time I had stopped us from sneaking into the ritual storehouse, Rika-chan and the others wouldn't have had to die. If I had, then nothing would have happened. We would be spending our days having lots of fun like we always did.
俺がバカだった。
If by shedding my tears I could take it all back, then I would have fulfilled up the room with them. However, such a meager act wouldn't be enough to redeem myself for the crime I've committed.
ケイちゃんは何も悪くないよ。
Mion gently began to speak to me as if trying to reason with me.
私は園崎家の当主として手を下さなければならなかったけど、園崎家の歴史なんか今にして思えば大したものじゃない。そんなもの全部投げ出しても私は仲間を救うべきだったのかもしれない。私がそんなものに屈したからあの二人を殺してしまった。それは他でもない私、園崎ミオンが殺したということ。私には踏みとどまる100億の瞬間があった。でも踏みとどまらなかった。安易に自らの役割に屈し、仲間のために戦うことを放棄してしまった。だからこれは私の罪。私が殺した。
Jesus, you're just saying it.
園崎ミオンがこの手で殺してしまった。それは何ら変わらない。何も
Like, look at her eyes though, it didn't change. Oh my god. Her masochistic laughter was sad. Especially because Mion boasted in the club that she would turn the tables on whatever predicaments presented themselves. It was so painful.
でもみーちゃんは自分の意志で一人だけ救ったんだね。
Keiichi.
え？
As I look at her surprise, Rena stuck her finger right in my forehead.
ケイチくんだけを殺さなかった。こんなにも強い力を持つみーちゃんなら造作もなかったろうに。でも殺さなかったんだよね。
That's right. Mion was so cunning that nobody could stand up to her, even in our club, if she had seriously tried to kill me. I would have been dealt with on the very first night. But so many people had sacrificed, but I wasn't always left out in the cold. When did I first realize it? Even though the people were disappearing one after the other, for some reason I had this vague belief that I only would be left alive.
さて、どうして殺さなかったのかね。鬼の私にゃ見当もつかないわ。ミオンの方に殺したくない都合でもあったんじゃないの？
そりゃどういう意味だよ。
Wait, what? I said I can't even begin to guess. Maybe Mion had some reason she didn't want to kill you? What? Mion put a finger to her lips to say that Rena didn't need to talk.
大石は外で待ってんの？逃げ場は？
ない。ぐるっと囲んでるって言ってた。無線でたくさんの車が来てるみたいだったよ。みーちゃん家の広い敷地を全部囲んでると思う。
Mion fell silent. Rena's merciless words felt cruel, but they weren't meant to be. Maybe they were trying to lessen her good friend's pain, if only a little. Maybe they were considerate, like she was trying to help.
自首しよう。
Mion didn't open her mouth, but she smiled just a little.
私たちも一緒に行くよ。親友を一人きりになんか絶対にしない。
泣くことレナには勝てないわ。
She rose, scratching her head. Her face had returned entirely to that of the usual Mion.
自分で自分の罪、どのくらいになるかよくわかってる。たとえ自首が認められても、多分もうここに帰ってくることもないと思う。
I couldn't say anything. The number of deaths Mion was involved in? So much so that maybe recommending that she turn herself in was in a way extremely cruel.
だから 最後にわがままを聞いてほしいな。
何かな。
30分でいいから、ケイちゃんと二人きりにしてほしい。
Oh, hell no, hell no, she's gonna kill Keiichi. No! Huh? My name suddenly came up and it looked like I was the only one surprised about that.
ケイチくん、どうかな。
Hell no, Rena.
ケイチくんが嫌なら無理にとは言えない。
そうだね。嫌ならそれでもいいよ。私は鬼だもの。ケイちゃんはよそから引っ越してきた正真正銘の人間。相入れることなんてお社様が実在して仲介してくれない限り絶対にない。
There was no reason for me to hesitate. Mion had been engulfed by heavy unopposable tradition. The one who had forced her to kill her friends with her own hands, that was me and me alone. In fact, with me cornered, it would have been okay for her to blame me. However, Mion didn't say one word of blame. Far from it, I was guilty of the same crime, and she let me go. Amidst the fate she could not oppose, she saved me alone. I didn't know whether I should be thankful for that. Thinking upon it now, I didn't know how much easier it would be if I were to be granted the same punishment as Rika-chan and the others. The only thing I knew for sure was that I had an equal duty to bear the sins that Mion shouldered. So when it came to Mion's last request, there was no reason for me to hesitate.
ああ、いいぜ。
This is why I die, Keiichi. Imagine actually agreeing to this? Are you stupid?
ありがとう。
私からもありがとうを言うよ、ケイチくん。
Rena stood up. It looked like she would keep her promise with Mion and leave.
あ、いいよレナ。ここで待っててくれれば。ケイちゃんとは庭をぐるりと回りたいだけだから。退屈だったら私の部屋へ行けばいい。漫画とか好きに読んでていいよ。
No, Rena, get your hatchet and come with us.
あ、なんだったらお気に入りの単行本丸ごと持ってってもいい。
嫌だよ。
Yes!
みーちゃんの本はみーちゃんのものだもの。勝手にレナの家に持って帰れない。
あんたはこんな時に限っていい子なんだから。
Mion took Rena's head and rubbed it violently like I always did.
じゃあ行こう、ケイちゃん。
I began to walk after Mion, who headed for the hallway, when Rena suddenly stopped me.
みーちゃんもよろしくね。
ああ、
みーちゃんもう二度と帰ってこれないって確信してる。
I didn't know much about laws, but with as many deaths as she'd been involved in, the chances of her escaping a heavy punishment seemed non-existent.
みーちゃんが短気を起こさないように見張ってね。
Mion might not surrender herself to justice, but instead choose to put an end to things herself. Rena had already fought that far ahead.
ああ、そんなこと絶対にさせないから。
Rena rubbed at her tears, which had fallen without me noticing them.
じゃあ言ってあげて。
I nodded and followed Mion, who had disappeared out the front door. I could clearly hear Rena sobbing from the other side of the paper
ど
door.
うしてみーちゃんは鬼なんか継がされちゃったんだろうね。それは仕方のないことだったんだろうね。でもあんまりにもかわいそうだよね。
Something hot burned down my cheeks. They were my tears. I fiercely wiped them away. This was the last of my time I could offer to Mion, so I absolutely didn't want to let her see my tears during it. Mion was already waiting outside the front door. Oh my god, that was a very long chapter. Jesus Christ. Okay, we'll take a break here. This was very long. But yes, So for today's episode, pretty much went with, I guess, yeah, with Uishi's plan, I suppose. I mean, Keiichi was gonna go there anyways, right? And then we saw Uishi. And now we meet with Mion. Honestly, this episode feels like the calm before the storm, right? Like, it was very calm, yeah, just talking to her. There were no... I think she was laughing and stuff like that, right? But there was no, what do you call this? Anger, I suppose? Like shouting and stuff like that. There was nothing like that this episode. And yeah, I feel like next episode is gonna be a lot. That 30 minutes that Mion said to be alone with Keiichi. I don't know what's gonna happen there. But yeah, for sure, it's gonna be a crazy episode next time. So Mion is saying, or she's pretty much, what do you call this? Introducing herself, something like the demon, right? And she's talking about Mion in a third person as well, right? And yeah, Rena cock-blocked us, honestly. Cock-blockula there. We were gonna check if the tattoo is on her back. What did Rena say? You don't need to do that, Michan. Dude, we could have known if this was Mion or Shion, right? My god. We were so close, but Rena said, no. You don't need to show your back. Could have shown it. And we could have seen if this was Mion. Is it actually Mion, right? Like, that was the only thing. That was the evidence. We needed to know if this is Mion or Shion. And yeah, like, see, no mention of Shion, right? No mention even once of Shion. Yeah, but I think we're gonna learn something about her next episode. We'll have to find out. Can't wait for that. Hopefully you check that out as well, right? But yeah, histories of Hinamizawa also said here. Very long dialogues, but it was nice and the music was really good. I love the music. It was very... It was beautiful, the music, right? The music that they were playing earlier. It was nice. So, yeah. Can't wait for next episode. Next crazy episode, I suppose, right? For sure. And yeah, we're gonna continue this and do more of Higurashi When They Cry. Chapter 2, Watanagashi in the next one. So I'll just see you then, guys. Bye-bye.